Could I just welcome Eamon the Cathaoirleach and Shane as well, and welcome the presentation. It's a very positive outline of the potential of our region, and I'm very glad that I had suggested when this committee was first formed during the life of this Dáil that we meet with the different cross-border partnerships through the local authorities such as ICBAN, and your presentation here demonstrates the value of meeting with yourselves. Similarly, when we met with representatives of the Shared Island Unit, I emphasised to them that there was a huge amount of knowledge and cooperation model existing through the East Border region, the Northwest Partnership and ICBAN, and that should be utilised. I understand that the Shared Island Unit has considerable contact with yourselves and others, and I sincerely hope that that can be built upon. Just could I also compliment you over the past number of years? You've done a lot of work in the whole area of Brexit, and I read all the material that particularly Cathy Hayward had put together, had contributed to, and was very useful in informing our local communities of the particular challenges that exist due to Brexit. Could I also just welcome the fact that you identify areas of particular strength that we have in that general area? You mentioned about the importance of the farming and the agri-food sector, tourism and hospitality, also engineering and construction products, and the particular challenges that are shared throughout this island and elsewhere in dealing with Brexit, climate change and the COVID pandemic. Could I also just say, with regard to, you mentioned in particular, and Councillor David Maxwell would be a strong advocate for this, the same as myself and other public representatives in the Cavan Monaghan region area, is the development of the Ulster Canal. Well, there's strong government commitment in that respect, and that needs to be progressed as soon as possible. It was always on the basis that would it be incremental, that it would be restored. And as I saw in my own home area, the restoration of the then Ballyconn-Ballinamore Canal that led to the establishment of the construction of the Erdon Shannon Waterway has been a powerful source of economic activity and an attraction for our major tourism attraction for our region. So I would wholeheartedly concur with you in regard to the importance of the Ulster Canal and the blueways, greenways, all of that can be downstream benefits as well from the Ulster Canal development. Could I also just say that I think as an area, that's the central border area, you take other areas like the Dublin-Belfast corridor, regardless of what challenges there are, be it Brexit, pandemic or other economic downturns that will happen worldwide on a cyclical basis, the Dublin-Belfast corridor, that will look after itself. It's areas like the counties that your partnership represents that will face particular challenges when there are economic downturns. And you highlighted the areas that we have particular strengths in: agri-food, engineering, tourism, hospitality. Most of them where we're exporting products. The British market is the key market in that respect. And dealing with companies on both sides of the border, I know that many of the companies that initially the first export market for a Cavan Monaghan company is for Manitor, or Armagh, is to Northern Ireland. Similarly, our neighbouring counties north of the border, they often depend on the southern market as the first export outlet, and then subsequently they go on to grow and export predominantly to Britain. So there are huge challenges there for many of our companies because of their heavy dependence on the British market. So we have to be conscious of the ongoing challenges of Brexit. Could I also just say, you mentioned that we don't have one major urban centre. You take our two neighbouring partnerships area, naturally the East Border region, they have huge growth centres and huge urban centres which are beneficial to them. And likewise, Derry, Donegal, the Northwest Partnership, it is Derry and Letterkenny, which are major centres, and fortunately for them, they have a university and Institute of Technology. All of that are important ingredients in contributing to an area's economic success. So I think we have to keep focusing on the particular challenges that face us because of the dispersed nature of our population and the fact that those counties, by and large, are rural counties. You also mentioned education. In the context of the development of technological universities in this state, I'm one of the believers who thinks we should have a greater emphasis on the provision of education, particularly further and higher level education, on an all-Ireland basis. Have you been doing any work with the colleges of further education in Northern Ireland and their counterparts here in this state in relation to building up the capacity in that respect to provide education and training in a much greater focused area in those particular areas? Could I also just say that when you talk about the Ulster Canal and the opportunities there are to grow tourism, we also should take as a relatively recent example of the Marble Arch Burren Park UNESCO Geopark. That has been very, very successful, and thankfully there will be further developments at the Shannon Pot, and we know the Kilke Boardwalk and the success of it. So I think they are good examples of cross-border cooperation that has been happening over the past 15 or 20 years in particular. And I think in advocating for our region, we must continue to identify other projects that can bring that additional economic activity to the area and build on the natural strengths as well. So I just want to conclude on that point, and I would just ask in regard to remote working, have you, in view of the pandemic, have you done, or have you in cooperation with the local authorities been doing more advanced work in relation to you mentioned broadband quite rightly, but in regard to the possibility of more remote working and bringing people back to live in those areas that you represent because of the new way of doing work and the new way of maybe hybrid working model or working from home? So I would just like your particular comment on that, Cathaoirleach.